Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of Give Freedom a Chance, the podcast from the Libertarian Party UK. I'm your host, Luca Bocci. We will do our best to entertain you in this Saturday afternoon. I know the world is getting crazier and crazier, and that we really hope that this conversation we're having every week, provided we don't mess up things, will be helpful to figure out exactly how us libertarians can work and reason in a world that is getting more and more crazy, more and more complicated. Welcome for being here. If you haven't already, please join the YouTube channel of the Libertarian Party UK, because we will do our best to provide extra content and to give us, a little bit of information, provided that the mainstream media doesn't really like us, because, I don't know, maybe because we go against everything that they stand for, which is more government, more taxes, more everything, less freedom, and our plan for the United Kingdom is slightly different. So again, as you've seen from our social media posts and from the thumbnail and title, today we will tackle a really big issue, because the more we go on, we would hope that the world would go back to sanity and stuff, and instead it seems to be going straight to the cliff, straight to the other direction, where it's impossible to have a conversation, because everybody's jumping at each other's throat, everybody's screaming at the top of their lungs and calling each other fascist and stuff, and the nuance that we actually need in order to tackle very serious issues is completely lost. And then again, considering that libertarianism is really difficult philosophy to understand, and we need nuance, but how do we navigate this environment where people tend to be, going at it and working each other out against calling each other names and so on and so forth? In order to do that, we are just very glad to have one of our guests. We had a little bit of a scheduling issue, but we're sure. So we are happy to have Stephen Nicalia. Let me turn you on your microphone, otherwise you speak. He's the chairman of the Libertarian Party US. Obviously, great to have you here. Hi, Stephen.
Thank you so much for having me on, Luca. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, it's really great also because it's very early. You're end of the world. You're at the other side of the pond. So you just had your coffee, you had your breakfast. So it's great. Okay, while at the other side of the channel, exactly from where I'm standing, because I'm in Europe, I have the coordinator for London and the southeast of England, Marco Bocci. Hi, Marco. How are you?
Hello, I'm okay, thanks. I'm having a bit of connection issues. Hopefully I'll try to fix it while we're talking. It's gonna get better.
Yeah, we'll just do it like it's 2002 and stuff. And so you're with something, but it's no problem. The important thing is that the message is going through. No one can stop the message, as always. So again, as we were saying, it's a bit of a timeless issue. We were supposed to be having Chase Oliver, former candidate for the presidency for the Libertarian Party, and we were supposed to be having Gottfried Bloom, who is a former member of the European Parliament and former member of the Conservative Party, and is, again, a stalwart in libertarian thinking in the UK, but apparently we messed up. So yeah, we had a bit of a shattering issue. So again, we will have them again, but I'm sure that the conversation we're having with Stephen will be more than precious, because as a chairman of the Libertarian Party in the US, you've had more than a chance to be invited to mainstream media and stuff. And so you have the pulse of the situation across the pond, where we seem, from our end of the Atlantic, we seem to be looking at a media environment and a political discourse that is completely losing it. So they are going overboard. And we're just thinking, I think we just seen yesterday around the post that the President Donald J. Trump did, and it was a satirical thing where all various politicians were impersonating, characters of the Lion King, and everybody went ballistic. Was it in good taste? Possibly not. Was it advisable for a president? Definitely not. Did it need to just be completely overboard like it did? Again, I don't think so. So what is your take? I'm thinking, from your end, it looks very manufactured to me. I've been in journalism since 1990. I've never seen something like this. So what is your take, Stephen?
Donald Trump is definitely an anomaly. He's somebody who, for many years, he was a showman. He was a TV icon, a media icon, and he knows how to play an audience. But in this case, I think Trump is also very fly by the seat of your pants, especially when it comes to social media. I'm sure the White House staff was up very late last night trying to do damage control based on that post. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, nothing surprises me coming from Trump. At one point, the U.S. threatened to invade Greenland and take it by force after I guess, the high from the operation in Venezuela. So a lot of the things Trump says and has said turns out to be fluff, or turns out to be a knee-jerk reaction to something. So you never really know. There's always a question: does Trump really mean it? Is it 4D chess? Is it 5D underwater backgammon? You know, what's going on in the mind of Trump? And to be honest with you, I think I think the latest social media, I guess, scandal, if you will just be replaced by the next thing he says. And funny enough, I think 10, 20 years ago, something like that would get a president impeached or do disastrous to his campaign or his party. But these days, it comes, and in a few days, people forget about it, and it's just cannon fodder later on. So the total environment for politics in this day and age is very different. Attacking your opponent is very much in vogue. That's been the American way for some time. I'm not sure how it is in the UK quite exactly, and maybe it's the same. But the viciousness and the getting down and dirty in politics these days is not only common, but it's expected. You mentioned earlier X and the internet and how people interact with each other online. It's only gotten dimensionally more intense. I don't know if you've seen Dan Bongino, the previous deputy director of the FBI, just went back to podcasting. He dropped out of the FBI. He campaigned on the Epstein files and their release. Didn't happen. It took Thomas Massie, a conservative-leaning or libertarian congressman from Kentucky, who led the charge to release the Epstein files. You know, since then, Dan Bongino has been inundated by people, namely Dave Smith, who's a libertarian podcast host and comedian. I'm actually going to be seeing tonight. You know, basically asking him what the heck happened, and he's been blocking people. He's been talking trash. You know, these are things that have traditionally been unbecoming of federal agents and elected leaders, but in this day and age, all that has gone out the window. So I don't know how far Europe is behind us, or if you're already there in terms of the lack of, I guess, decorum. But you know, that's where we're at.
I'm saying that it's just there used to be a concept that was called decorum. There is a Latin word where you say that if you're in politics, you're expected to maintain a certain, dignity, dignitas, or gravity, gravitas, as they said. So you needed to be a serious person. You need to be someone that was tackling issues that were very real, kitchen table issues, and talk about stuff that was important. And you did that in a serious fashion, with a serious tone, and you were a bit boring, but that's why people didn't really care about politics, because the understanding was that either you were on the right or on the left, you were a serious person. Nowadays, people expect spectacle. They expect to be entertained by politics. And I think it's probably because information as well. So the media, we used to have Walter Cronkite, you used to have Dan Rather, you used to have people that were very serious, Peter Jennings and so on. And so you had people that were in front of the camera that would say, I have to be dressed in a certain way, I have to speak in a certain way, because I'm getting into the people's living room. And so I need to be reassuring presence. And that's what it used to be. And now you have the 24-hour cycle. And now with social media, you go overboard because it's everywhere. It's on all the time. And so maybe that is why politics is getting less and less serious. So political attacks in Europe they are the norm, but they're not as vicious, because in America, I've seen some campaigns. I've been covering US politics since 1994, so I've seen a fair amount of dirty tricks and October surprises and so on. So, but in Europe, you have the tendency of saying, I'm bad, but look at the other guy. Oh, the other guy is the worst. Absolutely. And so you have to vote for me. And this, I think, is what has, made the political discourse decline so much. Because you're not talking about issues. When nowadays the government in the UK is is struggling because Peter Mandelson, it was a very important aide of Keir Starmer. Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, has been embroiled in the whole Epstein files scandal and has been taking money. And apparently he was financed by the Chinese Communist Party. Surprise. And so he could be gone in the next few days. And but then again, you look at things and you say, well, what do you want to do for the UK? The situation is really bad. Are you planning to do something? And people say, I'm better than him. Yeah, no.
No, Luca, if I can say something on this, I think in the US, you've said, Stephen, that the discourse, there was less and less sort of developed sort of conversation. There's been a definite shift from talking politics and policy towards personal attacks, and this is definitely not great to see, especially for someone who's been a fan of debate and all the school of the US debate. That was really an inspiration and an example to follow. In the UK, the things I was thinking about it last night and reflecting on the Mandelson debacle and for the government is that the UK was leading as well on this. It was that coming from Italy was always been inspiring to see that as soon as you had a politician who was found out the way Starmer has been found out multiple times, he was just resigning. He would resign without questions, just, that's what would happen. And that's what would people expect. Instead, right now, we are just seeing this prime minister surviving over and over. It's like a dead man walking. We all know politically he's dead. He has no credibility. The only defense in the Mandelson case was, oh, I didn't know he was lying to me, while he was a proven liar. We all know he's been sacked in the past for doing exactly the same thing. The due process was not followed. It was not vetted even before the appointment to a very prestigious, like the ambassador to the US for the British government, is one of the highest positions. They didn't do any vetting because, hey, he's a friend of mine, so we don't need to be too strict with him. So it's really in Europe and in the UK in particular, I see that happening, which is not helping. I think the people's confidence and trust in politics is an all-time low these days.
It's interesting you mention trust, because
go ahead.
I was going to say that institutional trust in the United States is at an all-time low. It's lower as you go down each generation. The boomer generation tends to be the highest. The millennials, next step down, Gen Z is extremely low. And Gen Alpha, which is yet to be 18 yet, is the next generation, and it'll likely be lower. You look at a place like New York City, where they elected Mamdani, who's a explicit socialist. How did he get into office? 86% of Gen Z voted for him. There's such a malaise regarding the current political order, and I'm sure the same is true in Europe and probably most of the world. That the younger generations are willing to try something new. Now, it could be socialism, it could be alt-right nationalism, or it could be libertarianism. And right now, there's sort of a political civil war going on, trying to win the hearts and minds of the new generation, because the old two parties in the United States have lost any have lost the next generation completely. They're completely disenfranchised with the current political system. And they don't believe in the old two parties to tell the truth. They don't believe in the media to tell the truth. They don't trust the institutions. Complete lack of institutional trust across the board. I think Congress is approval rating something like 16%. So there arises a unique opportunity for libertarianism to actually flourish, because a low and common denominator amongst libertarianism globally is low institutional trust. So if you look at Argentina, Javier Milei, all of his people that voted for him, of course, you had the enigmatic Javier Milei that came out with his chainsaw and was firing every government agency, but he gave the people a pinprick of hope in a very dark socialist, for many generations, government that inflated the currency and basically left the people with no other option but to try something new. And not only did Javier Milei get elected, but he was also reelected, and so is his party. So I think the same thing is possible in the United States and even more possible in Europe, since you guys do not have the same type of two-party system that we have in the United States. I'm sure there are more than likely some boundaries to running for office that have to be overcome. Here in the States, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars per year on ballot access, getting just on the ballot. And then, of course, it's winner takes all elections here in the States. In Europe, my understanding is it's more of a parliamentarian type system, and you guys are quite successful. So I think there's a lot of headroom in Europe for libertarianism to succeed, and I think the ground is fertile with the next generation.
Yeah, I see. Well, you see that the issue that I'm having right now is slightly difficult, because you see that the system in the UK is actually a two-party. It used to be a two-party system up until now, pretty much, because the latest survey say that both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party are in such a free fall that possibly next time we will have a general election, God only knows when, because it's supposed to be in 2029, but yeah, most chances are that it will be earlier than that. They will not finish the term, so the parliament will be dissolved before that. Right now, it seems like it's going to be Reform UK against the Green Party, which is a completely lunatic party run by a very questionable character that is flirting openly with Islamism, like Mamdani. I don't know if you read the latest thing that he said, that America should take inspiration from the Prophet Muhammad. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right. Yeah, when he got to Medina, he either killed everyone or forcibly converted everyone or enslaved everyone. So yeah, you should definitely take inspiration from that. It just takes, a little bit of history. So this could be the point. But the reality I'm seeing is the case of Milei is actually incredible, because he had pretty much halved the poverty rate. Rent is down massively in Buenos Aires, just because it went completely to the ground. In New York, you have rent control, where you fixed rent, and obviously you don't have enough of it, because no one is willing to rent at such a low price, because you don't have money to refurbish the apartments and stuff, or the houses, and so it's anti-economical. So you don't have. So when you impose a limit that is too low, the houses disappear from the market, and you are impossible to get a rent. Milei did the opposite and said, no, I'm cutting taxes. I'm saying, decide, let the market decide. What happens? All the apartments that were not rented, because people were saying, my God, if I got a tenant, he doesn't pay, I will not be able to get my apartment back, so I'm not renting it. They flooded the market. And so people were saying, hold on a second, now I'm spending 20% less? I've seen a video from Buenos Aires that he said, because the school is starting now, because they're in the southern hemisphere, so it's end of summer for them, so schools are starting. And he said, it's the first time that I'm going to get the supplies for my son, and I'm spending 30% less, because there is less tariff and stuff. And I've seen El Salvador, Nayib Bukele is just saying, oh yeah, you go to school, you have uniforms, you have books, you have a laptop. Why? Because the government is not wasting money. So I'm thinking, so libertarian policies work. It's been proven, because Bolivia is following the lead. They had a change of government recently. They are implementing the chainsaw tactics of Milei, and the government is doing better. So it's not a matter of, because up until a few years ago, you would say, yeah, libertarianism is very good in theory, but in practice, who is going to build the roads? And now we have the examples. We have Argentina, we have Bolivia, we have El Salvador. They are not really libertarian, but we'll go with it. So the problem is, how do you cut through the noise? Because the problem is that there is so much noise. People, they're just covering their ears, and and ears and that. I don't want to hear that. So how do you get through? What is the plan to get through? Because I mean, in the UK, we have in this by-election in the area of Manchester, and obviously we have a candidate, Dan Clark. A lot of people from the Libertarian Party are now doing canvassing in the district so that people know who we are. That just right now, which is why Alex is not here, no Andrew and the other guys, because they're up in the north doing politics. And I think the BBC just posted the name of our candidate, Dan Clark, yesterday, and it was possibly 10 lines. So just no indication who he is, what our plan is, what he wants to do for the district. So how do we get through the noise? Because Millet was successful because he was a character. He was invited in the shows because he was making such a big noise and chainsaw and everything. How do we cut through the noise?
There's good news and there's bad news, I think. The good news, or the bad news, is that the mainstream media, it's very tough for them to pick up on libertarians. The good news is that libertarianism is being spread mostly by alternative media, social media. It's really a grassroots movement that that is formed in its own sort of ecosystems. So how do you cut through? Well, for the past year, it's been a year since I've been chair of the LPUS. We've been featured. I've been interviewed by Nigel Farage, Bill O'Reilly. I've had plenty of articles, go viral. And I think the way you do that is sort of through an asymmetrical media strategy. And what I mean by that is, you have to find, number one, the unique angle of the Libertarian Party. So, for instance, one thing I like to tell people is that libertarians need to get good at crafting stories. We need to be good narrative builders. We need to find our niche and hone our own, carve out our own niche in the storyline. So I'll give you an example. Last week or 2 weeks ago, there was the shooting in Minnesota of Alex Preddy, who was by all accounts, a leftist who believed strongly in the Second Amendment. He was disarmed and then shot in the back 10 times, completely unjustified. I wrote an article about the situation with the Department of Homeland Security, the fact that the DHS is creating a police state in the United States. They're a counterterrorism post 9/11 organization. And for some reason, they're enforcing immigration law door to door, bypassing our Fourth Amendment right against unlawful searches and seizures through administrative warrants, which don't exist, leading to what we call the rise of the warrior cop, which is essentially the police state. And so what I didn't do is borrow narratives from the left or from the right and write on their coattails. We carved our niche. Libertarian Party has always been anti-surveillance state. We've always been anti-Patriot Act. We've always been anti-surveillance. And so by taking a strong anti-ICE stance through the lens of the police state and through, this isn't just about immigration. You're going to be next. It's going to be the gun owners. It's going to be, the people not paying taxes. It's going to be, XYZ, the people paying in crypto. Who knows? Eventually it'll be used against you. That article got 3 million views in about 3 days. And so we were mentioned in the media. It brought a lot of eyes and attention to the libertarian position. What doesn't work is saying, well, the conservatives of the GOP believes in the Second Amendment, sort of, not really. So we're just like conservatives in the fact we live in the Second Amendment. No, rather we want to say, we believe in your God-given right to protect yourself how you please. You should have access to just as many guns as the government for protection for your family and against threats, both foreign and domestic, yada, yada, yada. You get the picture. So you always want to find the sort of third rail and enter the conversation that way. You want to own your space in the conversation, and that those interesting points get you some attention. And we do have some journalists in different large papers that are actually very interested in the third party space. And so we do communicate with them. But podcasts like this, podcasts are more mainstream than the actual mainstream media these days. There's actually a lot of influencers that get paid off to say certain things as a part of the propaganda machine. So the people in power know that, hey, we need to own the podcast space. The CIA can't come out with a podcast, but they can sure.
Yeah, they can, absolutely. I think that right now the whole issue is that the 2024 was called the podcast election because Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance, they went, ballistic. They went everywhere. So they went with Joe Rogan, they went with Tim Pool, they went with all the big names, Ben Shapiro and Daily Wire. But then again, they also went into some generalist podcasts. They don't really talk about politics. So this was the thing. And so nowadays, I think that the establishment realized, hold on a second, this is a very effective way to get to the real people that don't particularly care about politics, but they want to maintain themselves, in the conversation. So I think that right now, the whole point is that libertarianism is quite difficult because it's very varied. We don't really have a single position. I can come up with as many libertarian leanings, commentators and stuff, they have a much different view on the incidents in Minneapolis because you're thinking, and then again, the whole conversation we're having now with the SAVE Act, Save America Act, and on voter ID, you're thinking in terms of saying, okay, it's a legitimate problem because if you're not a complete shill, you realize that there is something that is not working in the way the elections have been figured out. Because I don't know, it's just beyond me. I was born and lived in Italy for many years. Then I moved to Germany, Egypt, the UK for 10 years and stuff. So every single time I went to an election, I was bringing my ID with me because this is the way I've been brought up. You go to an election, there's nothing different. You have your identity card with you, you show it. Here, my name, I'm Luca Bocci, this is my document. Yeah, sure, here is your ballot. You go there, you push the ballot, you put it in the box, that's it. This is the way, and it's nowhere. And there is no mail-in votes, no distance vote. You have to have a legitimate reason. I'm in the hospital, I'm serving overseas. Okay, makes sense. If you cannot get home, you don't vote. I think my brother, Marco, which is now having a connection issue, he's living in London. He hasn't voted in the administrative elections because he could, but he would have to travel to Italy. And he said, well, I have a job. I cannot go back to Italy and vote. So he didn't vote. So voting is not an absolute. So, but now if you're thinking, okay, we will make a federal law that states that you have to show ID. And then you say, yeah, but what happens with the next government? So next time you have Gavin Newsom goes into power and says, oh, no check, no nothing. And there is nothing you can do because it's a federal law. So, I mean, this is quite tricky because this line of thinking in terms of saying, yes, I know it's difficult. I know it's a serious issue. I know it should be tackled, but it has to be done at the local, at the state level. Because if you nationalize it, if you federalize it, it will not be good for you. Because federalism is the foundation of the republic, and so you shouldn't do that. If you say that to a MAGA person, he will jump at your throat. Oh, so you want the Democrats to steal the election? No. I would like for things to remain at a state level. But then again, what happens with California, where they do the redistricting, the gerrymandering and stuff, and you have I think District 12, what was that? The thing that was just like this, and then there's a tiny sliver of that along the coast so that they win. I mean, this is crazy. Virginia has done the same, and I think New York and Massachusetts have been doing it for years, and now Texas is doing the same. Florida is doing the same. I don't think it's very good for the democracy of the United States to just take for granted that if you have a majority, you will take everything. I don't know. It doesn't really work.
It's the Republicans and Democrats since Ross Perot have been working in a bipartisan effort to keep out the competition since really 1994. When Ross Perot, the independent from Texas, went in there. He was a founder of the Reform Party. He got something like 20% of the vote, or I forget the exact number. But once he ran, we started seeing ballot access laws go into place. We started seeing laws that change the petition requirements to get on to get party status. It could be tens of thousands of petitions required in a very short period of time, with very difficult rules to stay a political party, even a minor political party. In Florida, we have great ballot access laws, thank God. That was done by constitutional amendment about 25 years ago. So in the Florida Constitution, if 4 people wanted to get together, start a new political party, you could do it. That's why most new political parties start in Florida, even though there's only about 7 or 8 of them here. You'd think there'd be hundreds, but there's not. And so what ends up happening is the Republicans and Democrats sue libertarians off the ballot, sue Green Party people off the ballot, make it very difficult. Places like California are very unfriendly to libertarians, especially with top 2, which means if you get the two top vote getters in a primary move on to the general election, so you may not even be represented at all on somebody's ballot. It is a very difficult system to compete in when it is so unfair. But it's something the Libertarian Party has at least been good at, maintaining 50-state ballot access or close to it over the past few decades, where it's really been an issue. In 2012, 2016, and I believe in 2020, we had 50-state ballot access. We might have lost 1 state in 2020. I don't remember. 2022, I think we were down 1, but we're trying to regain everything for, or 2024 rather, but we're trying to regain everything for 28. So, long story short, it is a very interesting system that we have. But in Europe, it does seem like there are parties. I know there's the Gurchi party in Georgia, which had a member of parliament, the president of the Libertarian Party of Georgia, who I don't know if he's been released from jail or not yet, but he was imprisoned for not recognizing a kangaroo court. I know there's other libertarian parties around Europe and of course in Latin America that have varying levels of success, even at the highest levels of state. And here at home, we have libertarians all around the country that are elected to different levels of office. So it is something that comes, I think, with time and experience and money. And a vision to get libertarians elected locally, at least here in the States first, and then we move on to higher and higher level positions, State House, Senate, etc. So that's the game plan.
I think it's a very sensible plan but I've seen that in the UK, but not only in the UK, Italy, for example, is very. We've been having the libertarian movement for years. Leonardo Facco and other guys, so they've been talking about libertarian ideas, and you have various think tanks and stuff. But in order to get into the ballot, it's possible to get there, but no one takes you seriously because the media obviously shuts you down, not inviting you to any debate, not inviting you anywhere. And people tend to have this tendency. I've seen that in the UK as well, as a member of the Libertarian Party UK. I've seen that people are excited only when you're talking about the big issues. No one is excited when you go there and you say, well, hold on a second, in your local district, there is a problem. I don't know, the swimming pool doesn't work, or the public library is underfunded, or the park is in complete state of disrepair. And you think, well, these are trivial issues. Let's talk about ending the Fed. Yeah, lovely. Ending the Bank of England. Oh, it would be great. Amazing. Having proper money, serious money. Rather than having stuff that's being taken away from your bank account overnight, like it happened in Italy. But if you don't start with local issues, how people are going to take you seriously when you present yourself for the presidency or for the governorship? You need to have experience, but if you don't get involved in the local issues, people are not taking you seriously into the big issues, which is why, now it's really important for the guys to be doing canvassing and door-to-door in Manchester, because people are saying, who are you? And say, oh yeah, yes, I am. I'm a member of the Libertarian Party, but I don't know, who are you? What do you want? What do you care? And so I don't think, how is the thing, how do you get people interested and involved at a local level? Because it's really difficult to go to the school board and stuff. It's annoying, it's unglamorous, you don't get the cameras in your face. But how do you convince people? Because we've been struggling in Europe. It's a major issue.
So what I always tell people is find out what issues affect your local community and try to find a libertarian solution to those issues. So for instance, when I ran for Key West District 4, we have a housing issue. So workforce housing is very difficult. I live in Key West. It's a small 2-by-4 mile wide island, so there's not a lot of real estate for housing. So I campaigned on increasing the density rate of growth ordinance for different types of mixed use, commercial residential, as well as tax credits for housing developments and accessory dwelling units. So if you have a property, you can get some zoning laws changed to be able to build on your property for like your grandkids or an employee or something like that. And I also campaigned on, issues of the economy, issues with energy, things like that through a libertarian lens. And what ended up happening is my opponents started to take those issues from my platform and they started instituting it in their platform because the ideas were so good. These were libertarian based ideas, but they were applied to the local economy. If I just went out and talked about, well, we need to end the Federal Reserve and, stop the war in Ukraine and, get rid of the national debt. Well, I'm not running for local city council in this instance, so it wouldn't really make any sense. The people want something for them, and libertarians can offer people something that is a net benefit, that does, we have a communication issue so many times because we are right, we are intellectual, we understand things in terms of systems. Oh, this system works in this way, and if we just change this around, where people really feel the concepts in terms of how does it affect me, what's in it for me. And so to be able to articulate specifically what libertarians can do for your own community, whether it's cleaning up a playground or tackling affordability or trying to, I'm not sure what's going on in England these days, but or the UK rather, but whatever it is locally that's
really I think Marco can tell you what is going on in the UK, especially in London. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. No, Stephen, go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, you're good. So yeah, I think that communication piece is very important because like I said, libertarians, we often get labeled as being overly intellectual, and nobody listens to us because the concepts kind of, go over people's heads. So if you're talking to, let's say, a black church in your community, talk about Black Wall Street and how, basically the government, destroyed Black Wall Street and, whatever the case is, you can find a topic, find an anecdote and the libertarian solution to it, why the free market works better. When somebody says, I want universal health care, libertarians have a tendency to say, no, we need to privatize health care. You can't have, no, I want universal health care too. I think it should be privatized and provided by the free market. And that's how you get it. So there's a way to speak to people that's enticing. If you look at somebody like Mamdani, the other end of the spectrum, oh, we need to give people rent freezes and free groceries and $0 bus fares. Now, are all any of those things going to happen? Probably not. But he was able to at least speak to his constituents in a way they understood. So we have Larry Sharpe running for governor of New York right now, libertarian, great guy. He was a colleague of mine. He ran for vice president several times under the libertarian ticket. And so we'll see how he shakes up. It'll be interesting to see if we can get a libertarian governor of New York and have a socialist mayor of New York City.
That would be fun. I think from Albany to New York, it would be constant warfare and stuff because he would be keeping saying, those guys in Albany are doing and everything. Again, Marco, I'm thinking this is a main issue because things in London are not going particularly well. Let's put it this way. Since when Sadiq Khan was in charge of the city, of the former capital of the UK, now the situation is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And you have crimes everywhere. I'm thinking I seen it on YouTube, on X a few days ago that we both lived in West London for a while. We were in Ealing, and I was working in near Heathrow in Feltham. But Richmond was a really nice place. It's a really nice place in West London. It's a really posh neighborhood. Houses are very expensive there, and it's so downtown is by the river, and it's a really nice place. You want to go for a pint, you want to go for a tea, for a drink. It's really nice. And there is a jewelry in one of the back roads, and you had some guys that were clearly looking not very British. They just smashed the window, grabbed the jewels, and just ran away. And you think, where is the police? Don't know, don't care. They just gone and went. I was living there up until 2019, and I was just thinking to myself, this cannot happen in Richmond, because Richmond is a very safe area, is a very nice area, and nothing bad will happen there. If it happens in downtown Richmond, the situation elsewhere is insane. But people still believe the government when it goes there and say, yeah, we'll take care of you, I will take care of you. And when you go there and you think, well,
the problem, Luca, is that
so
Sadiq got elected because of apathy, not anything else. It's that's the conservatives and most people didn't go out and vote. Again, when people talk about London, it's a fairly generic, it's a big area, so people's experiences of it can be very different. One thing that clearly is not working is that the Met Police has been turned into what was a police force, so fighting crime and catching the bad guys, what you would expect police to do. It's been turned into a political tool mostly. We're seeing cases pretty much popping up everywhere where police is more likely to be used as a tool to silence opponents, political opponents, rather than to catch criminals. It's more used to silence the negative narratives that they don't want to be seen on social media. That's why everybody hates X. And they have, and this nobody talks about it, the conservatives have brought in something that is awful for crime, for petty crime. They have basically said that everything below, if you steal anything that is less than £200 worth, they're not even going to prosecute you. So it's basically just a free pass. Just go on, steal. As long as you steal underneath that, nobody's doing anything, which is awful. It sends the absolutely wrong message. You should do the other way around. No, I'll catch you and throw you in jail if you steal a tiny bit. If you break a window, it's like the broken window fallacy. It's just, if you enforce petty crimes and you prosecute them and you put in jail, people will go, oh, geez, if I can go to jail for for throwing litter around, or if I get punished for that, imagine if I do stuff more, if I go and break into a car or break into a shop, as you say. The policing, they got it completely upside down. So that's why a lot of criminals, they just feel emboldened to just go and do these things because they don't gonna get prosecuted. Police is not interested in chasing them, and even more sort of serious crimes like rapes. We've seen sometimes they've been told, no, bother about it, nobody's gonna do anything. And the main issue with this is that, and I'm still amazed at how this hasn't happened yet, but you will see people taking justice into their own hands. That's why there's a lot of fear about all these communities that together, no, we need to defend us. So why? Because nobody else is going to do it. The police is not going to catch anyone who's going to wrong you. So people are going to start banding together. You're going to start seeing vigilantes. You're going to start seeing people being beaten up or worse if they don't do their jobs. And all that people are asking is simply that: just catch the criminals. Doesn't matter the color. That's the thing. They're just so scared. Oh my God! If this is a pedophile or a rapist that is Pakistani, oh my God, they're gonna tell me I'm racist. No, they will tell you, bloody do your job. I don't care the color of their skin or where they come from. A criminal's a criminal. All people want is for them to do their job. And honestly, I think the next mayor could be elected hands down on this issue only. Present it this way, colorblind, saying, I am for order, restoring order. Doesn't matter who's the criminal. We're going to catch them, punish them, and do the job that they're supposed to be doing. A lot of good policemen as well are being driven away from from the force, from the Met Police and other branches of police for exactly the same reason. They're not being allowed to do their jobs. So it's mental. I think that's the main thing that they need to tackle. In terms of
I think I've seen that things have already started to happen. I don't know if you've seen that in the US, but in Ballymena in Northern Ireland, it happened something like that. So you had some migrants, asylum seekers, whatever. They apparently sexually assaulted a minor in the area. And so you would have people from the neighborhood, they just banded together, they went to the hotel that was holding them, and they trashed the place. And you're thinking, oh, these are thugs, these are far-right thugs and stuff. You say no, because they knew that even if the people were arrested, the judges and the police would just send them out on their merry way. And so they said, we need to take things into our own hands, which is the wrong answer. As libertarians, we're just thinking, no, vigilante justice is not the right way to do things. But what do you do when the police doesn't listen, when the council doesn't listen, when the government actually thinks you're a bad person for thinking that
just
the
for
law
saying
should be upheld?
If I could interject, because I actually have to go. But I think it's a really interesting topic, because we were actually in London April of last year, and so much history, so beautiful. It was our first time there. We ended up going to France and Paris, and between the two, we noticed a lot of unscrupulous characters that were clearly out for no good, roaming the streets in certain touristy sections of the cities. And so I know the immigration topic is very big in Europe right now for good reason. And it seems to be multifaceted. Number one is the perverse incentives that government uses to bring people into Western Europe. You know, there's a reason they're not going to Bosnia, they're not going to Saudi Arabia, they're going to Western Europe, because that's where they're giving free rides, free money. There's no expectation that they have to be productive members of society, some of these people. They're just given a penance simply for showing up, which the liberals will say, well, it's out of the goodness of our hearts. The libertarians will say, that's a transfer of wealth from my wallet the government is stealing to give to somebody who is could be a potential criminal. We don't know. But regardless, whether they're a criminal, they're not a criminal, they still shouldn't receive my money. If I want to give the money out of the kindness of my heart, I'll do so, and you can do so, but it's not the state's job to do so. So that creates a pipeline of people from these countries and all around the world, whether it's in the Middle East or, you know, Southern Europe or whatever the case is, you know, Western Asia, to come to Western Europe and to stay. And so, you know, libertarians aren't necessarily soft on crime by any means. In the United States, we had our own situation where somebody let out something like 32 times in North Carolina for violent crimes, wasn't persecuted. Where in a place like Florida or Texas, that would never fly, at least in the county that I live in. So we believe in justice. We believe in applying justice to the level of the act that has been committed. Should the sentence be you know, equal but opposite reaction, right? Force of nature. You know, if someone commits a rape or a burglary or smashes a window, you know, they should serve their time. So I don't know why in London it seems like there's a lot of thought crime enforcement going on. The U.S. isn't very far behind. There was a man in Miami who was visited by a Miami Police Department officer because he criticized Israel. So it's very interesting that, you know, one specific country, you can say whatever you want about the United States, but as soon as you start talking about Israel, then, you know, there's laws against that. But so far, the U.S. has been enjoying a very good freedom of speech, and we hope to keep it that way. So if there's something that you can't say, we'll be happy to say it for you.
Yeah, I know. That's the really interesting thing. I think you've started to see people that are seeking asylum in the United States from continental Europe. I've seen Naomi Site, that is she's very for immigration and stuff, so she's a bit of a cat, right? No, she's a commentator. She was adjacent, part of the juvenile section of the Alternative für Deutschland, the party in Germany. And she said, the German police and the German government are persecuting me for just expressing my opinion, so I'm seeking asylum to the United States. and she's probably going to get that, which is extremely sad, because the last time you had people that were leaving Europe for conscience reasons, it was in the 30s and so on.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm sorry I have to run, but anytime.
Yeah, family calls. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Stephen. Thanks for being here. Cheers. Bye. Bye. Okay, so now we're just having the last few minutes, and so Marco, considering you're a member of the Libertarian Party Directorate and stuff, so can you give us an update on what is going on right now in this very time? What is happening in the Manchester area for the
yes? So today we're having our people going out there at the moment. They are out canvassing in the Gorton and Denton constituency to campaign for our candidate for Parliament, Dan Clark. And it's been going. I mean, to be honest, there were some of the members of the NCC were a bit skeptical whether it was a good idea or not to participate in this by-election, because we all know, I mean, it's probably going to be a two-horse race between Reform and the Green, from what it looks like. But we are all quite positively pleased by the outcome and the media attention that we are receiving. We've had, for the first time in a really, really long time, a very brief article from the BBC talking about us and our candidate, which is welcome news. I have sort of a sneaky suspicion that they are giving us a bit of space and media attention because they're hoping we will take some of the votes from Reform, but I'm not sure. I mean, we'll see. I mean, our guys are out there at the moment doing their best to promote our ideas, and we'll see how that goes. I wish them all the luck in the world. I'm hoping they'll make new connections and promote our party. At the moment, I feel like we've got a very strong proposition for the area. We've got, on some topics, we are more moderate than others, and I believe we have good solutions. And Stephen was talking about it. It's just that we don't get very often the chance to talk about it with people, because we're getting very little to no media attention ever. So so far it's been quite good.
Yeah, I know. This is a catch-22 situation where you're thinking. So as it happened quite often, libertarian solutions are very practical, are very down to earth. They're not so difficult to understand. Wherein saying, rather than giving money for free or spending 19 billion pounds restructuring the Houses of Parliament and kicking the Parliament out for 20 years, because this is what's happening. I don't know if you heard about it, but this is what is being proposed, spending 19 billion pounds of taxpayers' money. So this is insane. But rather than saying that, you're just thinking, what about giving the money back to the people?
No, but it comes into a moment where we're not exactly swimming in cash at the moment, so it's quite odd, the timing, for sure.
Yeah, come on. If your aim is to loot the public coffers, of course you're trying to do everything you can. Labour is on the way out. Starmer is on the way out. If I just go the tender, if I make it quick enough, maybe I can lock into contracts with huge penalties, and so I will give money to my friends. So this is the thing. Libertarian solutions are different, but if people don't hear that, people are not going to consider as an alternative.
The problem, Luca, if I may interject here, what Stephen was saying about, going in, participating to your local council life and all of that, it's the right thing to do, and I totally agree with him that we should be putting our heads above the parapet and start participating in our local councils. That's where you start. That's where you really build your support. The problem is that it's not easy. Lots of us are volunteers. We don't have a lot of time. We agree with the ideas, going to council meetings, promoting your ideas on a daily basis, even just shooting some very quick videos with your phone to talk, to speak your mind. It takes time to plan. It's a lot more difficult to do than simply giving a hand. You need a lot more people, like associations pushed by volunteers. You need a lot of people to do the work of one person, because if you can get a few hours of committed time from each person, is already a lot. So pushing forward projects, when you're a small party and you don't even and you want to promote locally, you need to have at least you need to reach that small sort of level of support when you have, I don't know, 5-10 people, where you can sort of cover all these things and keep pushing out there. It's just reaching that critical mass, and it's, I'm seeing that there's a lot of people who are, they're not engaged. They don't believe in politics. They don't believe there's a way out. Lots of them are being put off by the fact that, oh, you're a small party, you're never going to win anything. Well, if everybody keeps saying the same thing, you're never going to go anywhere, is it? So
Of course.
we have to start from somewhere, and I believe ours is a proposition of principle. What we have to offer is, you're seeing Labour Party, Conservatives going there and being all kinds of different, from left to the right within their same party, and they can be, the difference from one to the other is just like the day and night. So with Libertarian, we are much less in numbers, but we can get a lot of consistency on so many things. Like we think alike on lots of issues. You will find that there's a lot more principles. Our policies are backed by principles that don't change very much with different candidates, and the other parties don't have that. They can't have it because they're not backed by clear principles like our party. So we have a lot to offer.
So yeah, give us a chance. Step up. It doesn't take much. You just a comment on these videos, just interject with the social media channels, drop a note, send us a direct message on X, on Facebook, on TikTok, on YouTube and stuff. We will do our best, and because it's important to have as many people available, especially because no one really knows what is happening at the local level. Only you know it. If there is stuff happening in the council where they're wasting money, where they're making political appointments, where they're throwing money away, where they're just doing all sorts of ridiculous stuff, you cannot rely on the local media because they don't care, because they only care about the money that they're getting. So you have to have someone available. If you don't show up to the local meeting of the council, you will not know these things, or you will only know if the mainstream media is generous enough to look into that. We cannot really rely on that. So it's really important to step up. I know it's difficult. I know it's sometimes lonely, but in order to get to where we want to get, which is where you get people in parliament that actually stand up when they're wasting our money, taxpayers' money, and saying, yeah, no, there is a different way. In order to get there, you have to engage. If you don't engage, nothing happens. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Because we don't have Elon Musk financing us.
No.
If he does want that, we will be more than happy to receive his donation and stuff. But
that's another topic that you could open volumes. You could speak volumes on that. I mean, we've seen with the wonderful work that journalists, independent journalists like Charlotte Gill are doing. There's an immense network of charities that are pushing left-leaning narratives. They're receiving, I don't know, an inordinate amount of public funds to push for their ideas, and they're all helping left-leaning parties. They're doing their bidding. Those are just charities in name only. All of those funds are used for political activism, and to be honest, we don't have any support. Like and that's one of the things that I often find myself a bit annoyed at the fact that there are lots of organizations who are promoting ideals that are very similar. I'm talking about we talked about the Free Speech Union. There are, the Together campaign, that there's the Turning Point UK. We've got a lot of things that are in common, and we don't help each other. We're all kind of saying, no, I don't agree with you with this, so I'm not gonna, I've heard that, Turning Point UK is just too much Christian, too much religion involved, so we don't want to be involved with them. I'm like, guys, they are talking about freedom, life, liberty, and property. These are the core libertarian principles. Instead of finding ways to be divided, we should band together. We should, look perhaps over certain differences there are. If we keep being divided like this, we're not going to go anywhere. I mean, on the other hand of the spectrum, they're not doing these things. They're all band together. You got Hope Not Hate. You got all the people funded. You got all those charities. They all bring placards, pay people. They all got so much more funding and support than we do. And the little that exists, we spend being divided and not talking to each other, which is a shame, to be honest.
Yeah, no, they all march in lockstep like they're Macedon phalanx and stuff. They're a war machine, and instead we tend to nitpick and stuff and say, I don't particularly like your position on this issue, so I'm going to not work with you.
Milei's success, now we were talking about Argentina, Milei's success didn't happen because he went for it on his own. He agreed to a broad alliance. He wouldn't have been able to win if he didn't. And I'm sure the others were not exactly agreeing with him on everything. So
I know.
we have to do some compromise, a little bit at least, to get us out of, to improve the situation. But, it's not happening. We are reaching out. I am reaching out. I mean, just by email. I know I don't have a lot of time, so we could be more effective at doing that. But at the moment, we're all operating on our own with just our members to thank for our support. But, to go back to what Stephen was saying as well, it's very expensive to field candidates. I'm sure most of their supports goes into just appearing on the ballot. We were talking about just for the by-election, £500, just to be there. And I know for big parties is nothing, but for us it's a lot. It's so we need more support.
I know.
Just
to be there. And obviously, in order to field 520 candidates, obviously you would need a lot of money, a lot of structure, a lot of local chapters, a lot of people that do the canvassing, they do the printing stuff, they do the appearances, and so it's a long process. But you need to take the first step.
It is a barrier on democracy. I don't agree on that at all. Because yes, there are costs involved, but it's affecting disproportionately smaller parties like ours. Because we talk about reform, or the Conservatives, they have, or the Labour, they have tens of thousands of members. Just with their membership, they can cover all the things, but with the donors, with everything, that they have plenty of resources. They're no problem doing that. For smaller parties, even if you have people willing to do it, you can't, for this reason.
We really hope that the first step into building a basis for the party will be to have these weekly conversations. And so again, thank you, Marco. We've thanked already Stephen Kinsella, the chairman of the Libertarian Party US, for being with us. We apologize for the miscommunication we had in terms of booking. We will try to do better. And thank you, Marco, for being here. Again, if there is anything going on, just look at the social channels, look at the email. If you can, become a member of the Libertarian Party UK, because it does help a lot to start doing these things. Again, thank you, Marco, for being here.
Thank you.
And again, the biggest thanks goes to all of you that have been with us, and to everyone that may watch us later. If you know anyone that could be interested in these conversations, in these topics, and in knowing a little bit more about libertarians' ideal and libertarian solution, please share the link to this episode with him. It It does help a lot. And I will thank you all for being here this Saturday afternoon. And I will see you again next Saturday for episode 10 of Give Freedom a Chance. Thank you all.